Hello everyone, welcome to Programming Fundamentals with Steven. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a calculator in Python. Now this is assuming you know how to set up a Python file in Visual Studio Code. So let's get started. So in all coding languages there are these things called comments that can be used for documentation on letting other people, other programmers understand what your code does. So in Python, Shift 3, this is a comment. When this program runs, the interpreter will ignore this. Will completely ignore this, like it's not even there. And so we're going to set up our program in a certain way that I learned in college. I'm going to have my variables at the top of the program. Then I'm going to have my functions in the middle of the program. These functions will be code that can be executed multiple times, as many times as we want to call it. And then finally, we'll have the main program. This will be where we call our functions and take input from the user. So we're only going to be using one variable, and it's going to be called sum. And sum is going to be equal to 0. So what we've done is, in our memory, we have asked the computer to take this text and convert it into a piece of memory, which is just a bunch of ones and zeros. And we want it to be equal to 0 specifically. Now, in our functions, this is where we want our add, subtract, multiply, divide to be. You can think of functions as kind of like buttons, like when you hit a remote when you hit a button on a remote or press a button on a controller, you can think that a function has been called. So if you're on PC, when you hit the Z key, a function has more than likely been called that says, hey, the user presses Z on the keyboard, displays Z onto the computer. And so to declare a function, we put in def in Python. In other programming languages, it's different. In programming languages, like right now I'm learning C, it would just be this int main. Probably the longest you'll see is Java's, which is public static void main, and then some stuff in there. Usually in other programming languages, you'll need a main function to start the program, but I think in Python they have when you run your code, if you don't have a function called init, it creates this function by itself and then just runs your code anyway. We're not going to do that. because we don't really need it. Some might argue, but I do, but that'll be fine. So we're going to use def. This will indicate that we are writing a function. We're going to do the name of the function, and then these brackets are to indicate what parameters we want. And parameters are what variables we'll create within the function, what variables we can use within the function. These variables will be solely put with that function. You can't use these parameters outside of the function. So I'm going to have num1, comma, separate a parameter by a comma, num2. And you can have multiple, like num3, num4, like there is no limit. And then you end the declaration of the function with a with a colon. And you can enter, and you can see in Visual Studio Code it automatically indents, and it's an important practice to indent to indicate that you are writing within your function block. Math in Python is very simple. We're going to only do the 4 main functions, and that's it. There's obviously many more in a calculator, but this is going to be very bare bones, very basic, just to help you learn programming in general. So to add 2 numbers is very easy. You know, I'm just now realizing, because I didn't really plan this ahead, we don't even need sum. I just realized that. But it is good, I think it's a good practice to have variables indicated somewhere. So, because what we're going to do is return num1 plus num2. And we're pretty much going to do the same for the rest of the function, so subtract. And we can use the same variable, num1, num2. So we can put the subtract num2. That is not num2. I'm not sure if this was true or not, but what I also learned in college is that you should, from the return statement, you should go down 2 lines at least, I think, to help the interpreter indicate that you are finished with a function, but I think because we use the return statement, it doesn't matter. So to make this look a bit better, I might actually just do this, since we have a return. I think if you don't have a return statement, which is possible, you should go at least 2 to 3 lines down. I could be wrong about that. We'll do def multiply num1 num2 colon turn num1, and to multiply you do shift 8 star num2. And then we will do divide num1 num2. Return num1 slash num2. Alrighty, so we have our functions. Every time we call these functions with two numbers given, the function will execute and return num1 whatever num2. So let's go into our main program. We'll just print welcome to the calculator. This is the most friendly calculator ever, because no calculator says welcome to the calculator. So a print statement will print to the terminal whatever you put in it, whether that be a variable or a string. A string can be indicated by these quotes here with text in it. This in itself can be a data type, as num1, num2 are going to be, such as string example equals hello. And if we did print string example, it would output hello. Now we are going to take input from the user, and input from the user is quite simple. We're going to name the input first. Method to be called equals input, and then just like the print statement, it's a string. What would you like to achieve? We'll do one. There's probably a better way of doing this, but we're gonna do one dot add. Actually, we're gonna do something called escape quotes, I think is what it's called. Escape action, I think it's called. But what you do is you backslash n, and what that does is it's a indicator that you want to go to a new line within the string. One dot add slash n, two dot subtract, three dot multiply, four dot divide. Perfect. So now we're going to do something called an if statement. And what an if statement is just as it sounds. If something is like if the user enters 1, and then we'll call the function, or we'll ask the user what the two numbers they want to add are, and then we will call the function add the two numbers, and so on for the others. So to do this, we'll just simply do if method to be called double equals single quotes 1 and then colon. I know there's an error, but it's because I don't have anything after the if statement. So I'm going to just explain what's happening. So what is the double equals sign? It's a comparison operator. So it's comparing to see if the method to be called is equal to 1 to add r. And what I'm going to do, because math sometimes in Python is, or just programming in general, is really weird sometimes. We're going to use floats, and so floats can take in single integers, and we'll just automatically convert them to decimal. But if you just put in, like, I'll just do this really quickly, float. So we just declare it as float, and then brackets, and then we're going to do, or shit. So what I'm going to do is, we're going to do user num1 equals float, brackets, input, what is num1, so if the user enters just 1 into this, it will convert that 1 to 1.0. It won't convert it to like 1.00000. It'll just output 1.0, and that's completely fine. It's just it's you'll have an easier time with floats, because sometimes when you're dividing integers, it gets weird. I haven't gotten that far in my programming learning to really run into these problems yet. I'm an extreme amateur at programming. And we're going to do the same thing for user num2. And since we're going to be doing this 4 times, we're just going to copy this. And then we're going to add, we're calling our function from earlier. User num1, comma, user num2. I'm just control-S-ing to save. So let's see what's happening here. So we just say to the user, hello, and then we declare method to be called as an input. This input will be taken in by the user. And then if the user enters 1, it'll ask, what is the first number, which we can enter as anything, literally. We can enter just 5 or 5.73276. It does not matter. And then it'll take those 2 numbers and it'll add them together. And even if you put in like 1 here, .7 here, this is going to output 3.7. If you did 1.1, then it'd output 3.8. So you don't have to worry if it's an integer or not. Now we're going to check to see if the user wanted to subtract. And what we're going to do is called elif. So this is short for else if. And elifs are connected to the first if to run a check, basically. You could do the same thing, but I think this is just a bit faster. But it doesn't track. So elif method to be called equals 2. We're going to paste this from before. And then subtract num1, num2. And so you might be thinking to yourself, but since we've declared num1, num2, user num1, num2 here, and added it here, won't it just use these? And no, because this is an if block, and we've defined the variables inside the if statement, these variables are only used within this specific if block, so they get completely thrown out after the fact. So we can use them again. These won't carry on to these two. So whatever, if you did use this and you did have I don't have something here that's going to be recalling like a clear function. This is just going to be a one and done, and then you just rerun the program. But even if we were to do something that would call back to this input, you'd still be fine. And it's just going to be the same for the last two. Method to be called double equals 3. Paste. Subtract, multiply. I'm just realizing I did that. That's funny. Method to be called double equals 4. Paste. Divide. Okay, and so finally, what if statements are called else at the end of every if statement. This will happen if none of these are reached at all. So if anything is entered that isn't 1, 2, 3, or 4, the else statement will happen. And we will just print invalid entry. Go ahead and save, and we will run our program. The play up here. You'll see it opens up terminal. And that's hilarious. I should have left a. That's kind of funny. I should have left a new line so that you could. So that it looked a little bit better. I'm gonna just do that really quickly. We're just gonna do new line. Oopsie. Rerun it. So we'll do add, and then what we're gonna do is 5, and then we'll do 10.72. Oh my goodness, you can tell how much of an amateur programmer I am. You really can. If anybody knows anything about programming, they're laughing their asses off at me right now. You have to put these in print. Print statements. I completely forgot. That's hilarious. And completely embarrassing. Look at him! Look at him, he forgot to wrap them in a print statement. So what was happening was it was doing exactly what we wanted to add the numbers, but we never told the computer to actually print it out to the screen. So it was working, just not the way I intended. We'll do add, what is it, 1, 5, 10.72. Nope, 10.72, 15.72. Run it again. I'll do it for all 4. I didn't put a space there. Sorry if you have OCD. Let's do 7, 9 point and a bunch of numbers. 12, 13 point, a bunch of numbers. There we are. Do it again. 3, 3, 3, 9.0. 4, 8, 2, 4.0. And then this is how the else statement will go. We'll just put in H, and sorry, and then yeah, see it said invalid entry. That happens because we didn't put 1, 2, 3, or 4 in. So that'll be the first episode of Programming Fundamentals on how to build a very basic, very bare bones calculator. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you later. Goodbye.